Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss The Predator. Came out September 14th, 2018. Takes place in 2018, I think. I think it takes place in 2018. This is directed by Shane Black. Now, Shane Black plays the character of, what's his name? Hutchins in the very first Predator in 1987. He's like the communications guy who tells all the dirty jokes. So I remember when we were talking about the John Wick films that it was important to talk about the fact that actors or stuntmen who then become directors to do action films are directing from experience. So for Shane Black to be an actor in 1987 Predator film, to then direct a Predator film, that's massive. So he knows the source material. He knows the changes that can happen with it. He knows that animalistic property that was heavily talked about. The fact that the predators are not actually predators. They're more like bass fishermen or like, sportsmen because they're hunting for trophies. They're not, stalking the prey to eat the prey as a predator would. They're collecting trophies, which is not a predator, it's a huntsman. And I was like, oh, snap, why did I never think of that before? There's a lot of debate within the timeline of this film in regards to predators with Adrian Brody, Topher Grace, all of those actors, where they were taken to a game reserve off planet where the predators, big predators and the small predators, are fighting each other but also fighting the prey. I still say that happened in 2010 when that movie came out, and this happens in 2018 when this movie comes out. And why I say that is because the Alien and Predator franchise gives us a lot of information after we see stuff. So, like, we don't get, like, Alien Origins or Creator Origin stuff through Prometheus and Covenant until way after we see Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, right? But then the AVP films, we know that the Predators are the ones who brought the parasite of the xenomorph race to Earth, to Antarctica, thousands of years ago, and they go ever hundreds of years or so to fight and hunt and get their trophies within these particular species. Now, the events of 1987 and 1997, Predator and Predator 2, are talked about in The Predator. But the Antarctica incident was not discussed, nor was the Colorado incident discussed. The Colorado incident was from AVP Requiem, which was awful, but the whole town was nuked, so it wasn't discussed in this film about the predator species. It was only discussed about 1987 and 1997. And certain people are saying, oh, well, that means AVP and AVPR are not canon anymore. And I was like, in a way, because they didn't nuke Los Angeles, right? They didn't nuke Guatemala. People in Guatemala still talk about the events, as we learned in Predators, and people of Los Angeles obviously took the technology and, are trying to figure out other stuff, but they didn't nuke Los Angeles, so people still talk about that mystery, camo, dreadlock alien running around the streets of Los Angeles in that, chaotic war that was happening. So the streets, the town in Colorado that, the alien and the alien predator hybrid and the predators themselves were in, that was nuked. So obviously nobody is alive to talk about that anymore, aside from like the two people that survived the incident plus the military, but everything's hush hush now, right? So that's why The Predator is interesting, because this takes place in another suburban town. I have no idea where it takes place. It didn't actually say where it takes place. I think the only location we got was that Olivia Munn's character, she plays a geneticist, like a professor geneticist. She gets taken from her school in Delaware and on a helicopter. So it could have been anywhere that this particular event was taking place. Now, there's your little backstory on all the timeline stuff. The Predator takes place in 2018. Jacob Tremblay plays this kid with Asperger's, and he's got a twitch, all these things, right? But he's like good with numbers and like games and things. So his father is like some kind of special ops ranger or something like that. He's tracking to kill the bad guys and things, but he has PTSD, and he happens to be in Mexico when he's trying to, eliminate a cartel, and a predator and his escape pod with a ship happen to get tangled up with all that stuff. Now, why that's important is that the character, Jacob's character of Rory McKenna, Sergeant McKenna, Captain McKenna, I don't remember his title, but McKenna takes one of the cufflinks, one of the armbands, the Predator tech, and the helmet, mails it to Rory to keep it safe, and wherever they live, I can't remember where they live, this also takes place on Halloween, so there's a whole trick-or-treating Halloween scene where Rory is wearing the mask and the armband and wreaking havoc unbeknownst to himself after someone throws an apple at him and he blows up a house unintentionally. Awesome. So McKenna then is trying to be silenced by the government because he refuses to say where the rest of the tech is. The government wants the tech because they have the body of the Predator, who has been heavily tranquilized, and they're trying to study him now in some lab, wherever they are. And the Predator then awakens in the lab, and all hell breaks loose in the lab, and it's awesome. It's an awesome, awesome time. And he takes a helmet of a previous Predator collected from other places. We're assuming Los Angeles. And he puts the mask on to locate his own mask, finds that Rory has it, and the map system in the arm. And it turns out the Predator himself is a traitor Predator, that he was trying to bring weapons to Earth so that way Earth had a way of fighting the genetically enhanced predators, because the predators now, the bigger ones, are coming to hunt the smaller one. And the bigger ones, revealed through different translations and stuff, which is pretty neat, were taking the DNA of the warriors that had beat them, to evolve themselves into a better warrior. And the smaller traitor Predator wanted to give mankind a way of fighting back, because he knows that that humanity is a soon to be extinct species because of global warming. And they talk about the what was the name? What's that name? They talk about it in Kingsman all the time. That's why Samuel L. Jackson wants to kill everybody. Leviathan theory? I don't remember. But how global warming is the fever of Mother Earth, because the humanity is a virus and it's getting sick. But we know that the predator species survives in nice hot climate, and seeing as our greenhouse gas is heavily becoming a hothouse on this planet, the predators have decided that this is a good place now to start their own thing. But the traitor Predator wanted to make sure that the humanity had a way to fight. So then we have McKenna looking at this new weapon, which is a suit basically, and saying, that's my suit. Hope it comes in a 42 long. And we cut away. But it's so cool having all of these different moments. Aside from all of this, we have this group of PTSD soldiers who are on a loony bus, quote unquote. And McKenna is thrown into this group, but then they all work together to save Rory. And it's just such badass fight scenes and explosions and heavy moments, but hysterical. I laughed so much in this movie. Hysterical. Keegan-Michael Key is in this as well. I didn't honestly expect to like it as much as I did, because I hated AVPR, because it's like Gremlins. It was in the suburbs, and it was just, it made no sense. But this movie taking place in the suburbs, and then other surrounding woods and stuff after they find a ship and explode everything, awesome. It makes so much more sense than AVPR to keep it in a suburb, because it was centered around a kid who was trying to figure out the technology, and then he figures out the technology, and then the kid starts to work for the government, deciphering all of these things. So cool. So Shane Black did a great job on the Predator, because he was familiar and grew with the franchise. He was an actor in the 1987 film, so obviously he was going to do a badass job with the 2018 film. It had an $80 million budget. It made $168 million at the box office, something like that. It's incredible. So, we've talked about this with Alien, the fact that Alien and Predator are both 20th Century Fox property. I don't know what's going to happen with the properties, because Disney owns the properties. So it's a matter of, how is Disney going to make rated R Alien Predator action films moving forward. It's curious. We still have a 16-year gap between what happens at the end of Covenant to what happens at the beginning of Alien. And, I mean, Predator is its own line. We're kind of caught up. There's no, like, future Predator like there is future Alien. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens next. Thus concludes our 12 movie marathon conversation on the Alien and Predator franchise. I am so happy that we have watched all of them chronologically to get all of this information, so that way I know my dates and times. I now know my timeline. I am embarrassed with myself that I didn't know the 2 meme templates from Predator and from Alien 3. I'm embarrassed with myself that I hated Prometheus and Covenant when I didn't even see Covenant, actually, in the movie theaters. I hated Prometheus when I first saw it because I didn't see the first movies ahead of time. I didn't know the timeline. Now I know. When there's a 11th movie in an installment, you watch the other movies so you understand and appreciate it more. I think that's why I'm so mad with myself, because I didn't watch the movies prior to watching those films in the theaters. Yeah, good times. I now need to find my Alien and Predator toys wherever they may be in the basement, because I miss them and they're awesome. And yes, we're done. On to the next movie marathon. Mucho mahalo.